How you doing? This is my 2005 Chevy SSR. I'm going to be attempting to upgrade the factory Bose stereo system to a Pioneer 930, an AVIC 930 BT head unit. I'm also going to be, it has a GPS, and I also bought a Pioneer rear backup camera to go along with the unit. I'm going to try to document the outline of how things go. I haven't installed a stereo in decades. I think the last stereo I installed was probably back in the early 90s, maybe, something like that. So it should be interesting. I have a lot of good resources to tap to help me along the way, and we're going to see how this all goes. One thing I did right away was I made the modification to the wiring harness that allows you to use the GPS controls when the vehicle is moving. I know it's a safety feature, but I trust myself to be diligent in the way I would use it. So it's very common for people to disable this feature. The way you do it is by moving this yellow wire here from the hole that it's in to the hole underneath it. It starts out being next to a black wire. It should be next to the red wire when you're done. And the way you do that is I pry it up in this little cover to loosen it. And then in the end of the harness, I took a straightened staple and stuck it in the hole above the yellow wire that releases a little tab. You can simply pop the yellow wire out then and just move it to the hole directly beneath it. And that wire then gets grounded, and that will bypass that safety feature. Before I'm starting to rip anything apart, I am removing the fuses for both the radio and the amp, which are located in this side fuse panel that's next to the passenger seat. And I'm also removing the airbag fuse that's at the under hood fuse block. If you want to simplify things, you can just disconnect the negative battery cable, but that'll kill the whole car. Just removing these selected fuses will leave the car functional, but still make it safe to work on the audio system. Okay, I just removed the two trim pieces here that reveal the screws that hold the front dash cover on. I just popped them off. They just snap in. I have these plastic prying tools so I wouldn't damage anything in the process. There's one trim piece on this side that had to be removed, and then trim piece over there, a small one to the left of the steering wheel. So now I will be removing the screws and see if I can get the dash pad off. Okay, you can see I have the front dash pad in my hand. There was 4 screws to remove on the passenger side, and there was 1 screw to remove over here. There are clips in the top of this that secure along the top of the dash. I used my prying tool to pop those out, and then it just took a little bit of manipulation to get the panel to come out. I dropped the steering wheel, and there was this little piece was kind of getting hung up in here. I just had to reach in with my hand and release that, and the panel's off. So now I have access to the radio. Let's see what happens next. Okay, the radio itself is just held in by 3 screws, 1 on this side, 2 on that side, and pull it out, you get access to the back of the radio, and now the real fun begins. Okay, the radio is out of the SSR. This SSR has the Bose amplifier and speaker system. You'll notice there's just 2 connectors sitting in here. You got this one, the big connector goes in the back of the radio, and the antenna. This is the 930 BT has a GPS antenna, which my plan is to mount up under the dash, up under here. I heard that that's an acceptable location, and you still get some decent reception doing it that way. And I'm going to be also adding the backup camera. I also have the interface that allows the steering wheel controls to be utilized. And all that's going to be the most challenging part, figuring out how that all gets tied together. So I'm going to be doing some homework. Okay, here's my GM S04 interface. I've done a lot of head scratching with this thing. It really confused me, just because of the way that it was referring to harnesses that at first I didn't realize that I had. The only harness that's inside the SSR is this 24-pin harness, which the GM S04 has. But then it started talking about some other harnesses. And then there was also confusion regarding the actual wire connections. As you can see here, there's a whole bunch of wires that I'm not using. Those are for non-amplified applications, it looks like. Or I should say, actually, those are for applications where you don't have RCA connectors available on your radio harness. The 930BT has RCA connectors that come right off of the harness, so I can use those to connect to the amp and the SSR. All these connections here, I just have them twisted together, and I just have these connectors pushed on temporarily because I'm going to test it, obviously, before I crimp anything down to make sure that everything works. And more confusion with the GM OS04. I have some additional connectors here that don't have any application in my vehicle, as far as I can tell. This one would not be used for anything. Or is this one? This is a 12-pin connector that only has 2 pins in it. Don't have any use for that. Although I am curious if it might have an interface with my steering wheel input. So something else to figure out, but I'm plodding through this slowly but surely. Well, you can see the stereo is working. You can see the mess of wires. I just have everything connected tentatively. I wanted to see if I got the basics down. I don't have anything cleaned up. I don't even have the GPS hooked up. I don't have the camera hooked up. But this is just to make sure that I got the basics down, and evidently I do, because I have sound, radio works. So now I'm going to be doing the cleanup process, trying to connect everything correctly, tie up wires, and then I still have the whole process of trying to route for the camera from the back and mount the GPS. So I got a lot to do yet, but at least I know that it works. Okay, at this point I've had the radio in the car. I had the GPS antenna hooked up to it half-ass and just verified that that worked. I installed the Access steering wheel controller, and that works. There was a lot of confusion with that because it comes with its own harness. But here the GMS 04 harness, which is also an Access product or Metro product, same thing I guess, that already had the interface for the steering wheel controls. So I didn't realize it until later that I was doing duplicate work. So I'm just utilizing the harness that's part of the GMS 04. I'll show you what it is. Yeah, right here, this little thing goes right into the steering wheel control module. And like I said, you have an identical harness that comes with the steering wheel control module, so I was trying to use that instead. So it'll help clean things up a little bit. As you can tell, I got a big mess here. Wire management is going to be quite challenging. Tucking all the components in is going to be quite challenging. Doing it in a way that all fits and looks nice is going to be quite challenging. But hey, life's all about challenges, right? So I'll check back once I make some progress. Just in case you were wondering, the spot that I'm using for ground is a bare metal spot here right next to the coin tray, to the right of the steering column. It's the closest bare metal I could find, and seems to be a good solid ground. I'm putting the GPS antenna right on top of this. You can't see the antenna, but right on top of this metal piece here. The antenna is actually magnetic, so it just kind of locks itself right on there. It's up forward on the dash, so that should be a good spot. And I believe from other people's accounts of installing a GPS in an SSR, that's typically where they wind up putting the antenna. It's nice and hidden, but you still are able to get satellite reception, so that's what I'm doing as well. Okay, when I last left you, I was putting the GPS antenna in this in the car. I've actually progressed quite a bit from there. As you can see, the radio is actually in the vehicle. But I have some problems, some bugs with my installation, so I'm going to be actually removing the radio and trying to clean that up. Among the bugs, my navigation volume is really low for some reason. Whenever it switches over to the voice, I can hardly hear it. And also the overall sound volume seems low. When I have the stereo maxed at 40, it still doesn't seem as loud as the stock radio. So I'm wondering if I need to, there's a little potentiometer on the GM excuse me, on the GM OS04 that allows you to increase the input voltage. So I'm going to try messing with that and see if that makes a difference. Since I have the front dash off again, I'm going to be shaving the lip that goes around the airbag here, since that makes it such a pain in the ass to get the dash on and off. And I also plan to be removing the top dash cover. The reason I want to do that is so I can better manipulate the wires. And there's a whole bunch of wires and harnesses and components with this new stereo that are just kind of wedged back there, since I had to just kind of do it by feel, which isn't ideal. I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to pull this off so I can get a good look at what's going on behind the radio and make sure that everything is back there in a way that's not going to cause a problem later on. And probably while I have everything apart out, I'm going to wind up soldering connections as well. As far as other work to be done yet, I need to get the backup camera set up. One of the issues I had was the truck was not automatically flipping the 930 BT to the rear view when you put the vehicle in reverse. That's because I have to connect it to a circuit that gets power when the rear backup lights are put on. From what I understand, there is such a circuit in here, which is behind the waterfall. There's a connector box that goes in there, and if what I saw on the forums is correct, I should be able to get the backup light power off of this connector down here. But I'm verifying that because I certainly don't want to mess that up. Removing the waterfall on the SSR was just a matter of popping it up. It's all just held in with clips, so I just use my nylon pry tool to do that. So right now I'm going to be continuing on removing the radio, and I'll check back in once I have the top dash cover off, hopefully. From what I read, to remove the top dash cover, you have to start by removing these pieces here, these trim pieces, and subsequently probably this body color plastic piece as well. So I'm going to do that next. First step will be removing the visors. There's just 3 bolts to hold each visor in, and then there's a little electrical connection for the lighted mirror. You just have to unhook that. Side trim pieces are just clipped on, like it seems like almost everything else in the interior of the SSR. Just have to pry with a little bit of authority, and again I'm using my nylon pry tools just to make sure I don't break anything, but then that popped right off. And this is going to be hard to believe, but the body side molding here that goes right along the front edge of the dash, that also just appears to pop in as well. So nylon pry tools are an essential part of this job. Okay, dash cover. Look at this, more clips, more prying, more popping. Yeah, guys in the forum said that it basically just popped off and they weren't lying. Well, I'm thinking of it, this is the front dash cover, and this is the portion that I'm going to take a Dremel to take a bunch of that out. Everything that I've read that it doesn't affect anything as far as the operation of the airbag goes, and if you buzz a lot of this out there and over here, it makes removal and installation of the dash much easier. So I'm going to be doing that. Okay, with the top dash cover, surprisingly there are actually a couple screws you have to remove. I don't know that you can actually see it. One of them is down here, which with the reflection you probably can't see anything. But basically, one is here, and then the same location on the other side. There's two screws that have to be removed in addition to the clips that have to be popped out. And once you do that, it looks like you just kind of slide the top cover to you, or towards you. So I will see if it works. Okay, there's one additional screw that was not on the diagram that I saw, located all the way in the front there next to the light sensor. Once that was removed, it's easy to pop the dash off, although you do have to get the light sensor out of the dash, and that's kind of like just like a light bulb fitting. You just rotate it and then it popped out. So at least you can see here now I have a clear view of the back of my radio and all the mess back there. So that's what I wanted. So at this point it's going to be a lot of just cleaning up and wiring and just trying to make sure everything, and testing before it all goes back together. I'm going to make sure that everything is working 100% before I put anything back together, because I'm sick of doing it. So that's next. I'll check back in when I got some more information. Well, one of the major problems I was having with this was the volume level was really low. Like, even if I had it maxed at 40, it was really low. And all I did was I took it apart and I turned the potentiometer on the GM OS04 a little bit. I disconnected and reconnected my RCA plugs, and now listen to it. That's 11. So my volume problem appears to be fixed, and also my I haven't noticed any of the cutting back and forth that I heard between the left and the right speaker before either. So I'm feeling a little bit hopeful about that. Before I can put anything back together, I need to determine where I'm going to be getting my reverse signal from. So I still haven't done that. So anyways, this was some progress. I think it's about where I'm going to leave it at right now. This is another annoying gotcha that I have. If I mount the faceplate flush with the front of the radio, it doesn't slide all the way back. It hits on this little bracket behind. I'm not sure if there's any there could be some negative consequences if I would remove that, bust it out. I don't know. I guess I need to ask first. Well, it would make mounting the factory radio a little messy, I guess. But so I'm gonna do some more messing around with that. But I think right now we're at a stopping point. I'm out here using my trash can as a makeshift table. I'm utilizing a Dremel to cut down on this lip here where the airbag pops through. What I read online, this is a good way to make the installation of the airbag or the installation of the dash around the airbag much easier. So I'm going to take advantage of that, and it's pretty easy. The head of the Dremel just kind of melts this plastic, so it's not a big deal. Works pretty good. Whew. Well, I definitely crossed over the value to time quotient. I spent so much time in this that the $400 or $500 I would have paid extra to an installer would have been well worth it at this point. But I got a whole ton of experience ripping the interior of this vehicle apart. I mean, I had it really apart. So you can see right now I have the radio in. You also notice that I don't have the backing plate, the faceplate around it, because putting the faceplate in would make the dash stick out, which would make these buttons bind up. So I decided to just deal with not having the faceplate around it. It doesn't really bother me that much. I did do the shaving around the airbags to make it easier to take the dash on and off. That did help. I have the camera set up. see, I just put it in reverse, and I got my reverse camera. To do that, I just tapped into the positive line for the one tail lamp, and since I had to run wire all the way underneath the truck for the camera anyways, I just put the wire for the reverse signal in a wire loom with the camera wire, and just tucked it up under the frame, and I actually wound up routing it. I drilled a little hole in the floor over here underneath the sill, and popped the cables up there, and then they're routed through the molding and up. I had issues. I had the whole thing back together. I thought I was done, and I was hearing like a high-pitch alternator whine. That was caused by the GMOS 04 module. I think I mentioned that I fixed the volume problem by turning up the input volume on that, and I have good volume now. I have this really low. Let me just turn it up a second. So I have good volume, and my other problem was I didn't have hardly any volume with my navigation. So now you'll hear.
Volume will be set at this level.
So now I can actually hear it. So
volume will be set at this level.
So that's cool. GPS works. I messed with my home screen a little bit, drug some icons out here so I can, just jump this stuff quickly. I prefer the 3D view. You might not be able to, okay, now you can see it. As far as the camera itself, let me just show you where I mounted it. It's right here. This cable goes up behind the bumper and down the passenger side of the vehicle, tucked up away from exhaust, and like I said, it's in a wire loom to make sure it's protected. I still haven't gone through the setup procedure. There's a setup routine you have to go through the camera so it gets to orient itself based on where it's located on the vehicle, but I haven't done that yet. As far as gotchas with this, the whole GMOS 04 thing was definitely a gotcha. Yeah, it caused multiple issues. The wiring itself, it's a bitch, because the factory radio only has a one small wire harness connector and an antenna, and with this new radio, I mean, the wiring is just out of control. No matter what you try to do, you're going to have a mess back there. Besides the GMOS 04 module, you also have the Metro or the Access ASWC, the adapter that gives you control of your steering wheel controls for your stereo. So that's tucked back there as well as the big ass harness, and it's a mess. I mean, even when I had the top dash cover off, yeah, I couldn't do a significantly better job of making it neater or more organized. It's just kind of a mess. The only other issue I had was once I had it all back together, I started hearing a high-pitched alternator whine. The whine was coming out of the speakers, and it coincided with the accelerator level. I'm like, oh god, great! And so now I have a bad ground or something like that. So I spent a lot of time. I ripped it back apart. Spent a lot of time disconnecting wires, trying to troubleshoot it. I couldn't get anywhere. I didn't see anything that was wrong, and it was very frustrating. But what I wound up doing was just backing off again the volume on the GMOS 04, turning it down a little bit, and that got rid of the whine. So I don't know if I had it turned up so high that it was amplifying that sound or what, but once I turned it down a little bit, it's okay again. So knock on wood, that will be fine. And knock on wood, I am done with this audio upgrade project, because it has been a major hassle, but it's done. So unless anything else happens, that'll be it. Thanks.